Welcome, Daniel, to the Ethical Evolution.
Oh, I thank you, Bindi, for having me. I am ready to get my ethics on and help your audience be more ethical, wonderful people. Let's do this. Let's be ethical and evolve and be part of the evolution.
Now, I'm super excited to have you with us today. Now, you're joining us from the UK. Now, Daniel, for those people who don't know who you are and what you do, can you go ahead and tell us?
I can. My name's Daniel Packard. I'm living in the UK, but I am American. I left the US about 10 years ago because I just wanted to be happier, and I live in a new country every year. I'm very free, and I'm spending um, the rainy winter in England just to kind of get my England on, have some fish and chips, some mushy peas. But I am originally from San Francisco, and I'm a UC Berkeley mechanical engineer and the CEO of Permanent Anxiety Solutions.
Now, the conversation we're about to have is kind of groundbreaking. Like what you've managed to do and the results that you're producing for people is absolutely incredible. And so I want to unpack that with you today. But first of all, let's talk about your story. Where did your anxiety start?
Well, first of all, thank you for appreciating that what we're doing is groundbreaking, because it is. And I know it, my team knows it, the people that we help knows it, but what we're doing is innovative, and anytime you do something innovative, people think it's too good to be true. So we're not getting the love that we should, which is kind of sad because we can't help more people. But what we are doing is groundbreaking. And I just want to be clear before I tell my story and my company's story. I want to be explain to your audience why what we're doing is groundbreaking, because your audience is quite savvy. They listen to a lot of podcasts and maybe the topic of anxiety and fear, and they know a lot. And I want to explain the value of what I want to share with your audience that is groundbreaking, just to earn their time, because their time is very valuable. What we did that's groundbreaking is that we developed a system that gets permanent results for anxiety, but also just really anything related to fear. So that can be fear of rejection, fear of failure, self-doubt, insecurity. What we discovered is all of those are basically fear, and all those fears have one root cause. So I'll be talking specifically about anxiety, mostly just that word. And what we're doing is not how to manage it, but how to solve it, meaning it's gone, so that you can be happier and more focused and show up more fully. I know a lot of your audience is female and wants to go out into the world and be the best them. And I love that about your audience, but I don't care who you are. If there is anything that you could call fear, anxiety, insecurity, fear of rejection, fear of failure, it's gonna slow you down. And your audience already has tips and tools and insights to manage it. That's not what we're doing. What we discovered was a way to permanently solve it so it goes away and it doesn't come back. And it's a really cool word, which is simple. And so if you're listening to this and you have these fears or insecurities or anxieties and you're managing them, but you think, oh my God, how good would life be? How high could I show up for my family, my children, the world, if I didn't have this fear and I want it gone? That's what I want to share with your audience.
Amazing. And if it comes down to fear, like we're not talking about our mind, are we? We're talking about our nervous system, aren't we?
Well, we are. That's what we discovered. However, it is good that I tell my story, because the major roadblock right now to helping more people right now is not what we're doing. We're getting an incredible 90% success rate. It's that people they think it's too good to be true. And I get that. So I like to tell people the origin of sort of where I came from and the company came from and our program came from, because it'll change you'll understand why what we discovered is revolutionary, because there's a fine line between snake oil and a revolution, and groundbreaking. So what we're doing and what our passion is results, permanent results, measurable results, and measurable results that are permanent. When people do our programs, they're measuring their fear and anxiety levels multiple times per day to get real scientific measurements, so that by the time we're done helping them, they have real scientific measurements that are actually less anxious and less afraid. And because we care about results so much, when we work with people, we don't charge you on the front end. We charge you at at the end once you actually have the results, which is incredible. And it's also great because your audience, your podcast is called The Ethical Evolution. And the ethical thing to do, which is not done, is charge people for results. If you take your car to a mechanic, you know, they don't charge you to understand your engine or to give you tips and tools on engine management. They repair your car and then you pay them. If you hire a contractor, ideally, would you build my deck? Yes. Okay. When it's done, like, here's the money. No contractor says, hey, I want to give you some understanding about decks. And I want to give you some tips and tools on how to not fall through your old deck. No, you pay for results. But when it comes to the $1 trillion personal development, mental health, spirituality industry, $1 trillion a year gets spent. And our research showed virtually none of that gets permanent results. And it's not ethical. So one of the things we're doing as a company is to not go after the people that are trying to help, the therapists, psychologists, you know, they're doing the best they can, but is to wake up people and say, hey, if you're going to go to somebody for help, pay for results. Now, the reason that results matter to me so much is because when I was growing up, my dad was a scientist and also an inventor, and he would invent things. And I thought that was the most incredible just superpower ever. You know, people would say, oh, I wish I could fly. I'm like, I want to invent things. And I wanted to invent things because my dad said to me, he said, you know, something in this world isn't working. You can invent something better. And it's obvious, but it's not obvious. It's a way to see the world. Don't just tolerate it. Make it better with an invention. And he also said to me, what I like about science is anybody can claim to know what they're talking about, but not everybody does. And what's nice about science is it's results. Results matter. It's the person with the results that you can trust, and it's the person with results that knows what they're talking about. Results matter. And this passion of inventing and creating things that get real results, which is very satisfying when things work. I went to engineering school at UC Berkeley, and I got properly trained how to look at a complex problem that seems unsolvable, but to break it down into small engineering mechanics and mechanisms, and then you build a prototype. This should work. I don't know if it'll work. And then you test the prototype and you get results, and then you make refinements and you adjust until this thing that you invented actually works. And it's very satisfying when something works. And the good news was that I knew how to make machines work, but they did not, in my engineering training, teach me how to make relationships work. I don't know if I missed that class or it was like buried in thermodynamics or something, but I came out of engineering school really good at making machines work, but not relationships work. I know your audience would never make that mistake, but I did. I didn't know what to do. I fell in love and I thought we'd live happily ever after, and we didn't. And it turned very unhealthy, and I didn't know it, but I was basically being emotionally abused, but was too insecure and codependent to leave. And during the relationship, I was very proud of myself. I was the hero, and I kept showing up, and love will conquer all, and we can do this, and forgiving. But when the relationship ended about 2 weeks later, my whole system just crashed, meaning the tiniest thing, an email from someone, a loud noise, someone interrupting me, and I would get filled with just terror. And I didn't know what was going on. I later find out I had complex PTSD and severe anxiety. And like your audience, when we experience these things, we go looking for help. And like your audience, I went to the experts. I went to therapists and psychologists and doctors and spiritual teachers, and went to retreats and followed gurus and everything. I spent 10 years and $100,000 trying to solve this, and all it ever did was manage it. And at times it would even get worse. And also, all my friends and family didn't want to be around a person in pain, so they all kind of just walked away, leaving me feeling even more broken and alone. And I wouldn't have taken my own life, but I definitely got why people do. Because if you have no life, you're in constant pain, and there's no way out. It's like, what's the point? And I had a real kind of come to God moment where I was like, hey, what do you want? What? Why? What's the point? Why are you, like, what is this? What do you want from me? And I kind of heard very clearly, like, something's not working. Invent something better and that gets real results. Because you're an engineer. This is what you're trained to do. And I thought, okay. And mostly just to get myself out of pain, but also the world. I saw that this $1 trillion industry wasn't getting permanent results and it needed disruption, it needed innovation. And so I started my own research company with the mission, could we create programs that permanently solved anxiety, fear, insecurity? Could we? I didn't know if we could, Bindi, but I wanted to try, and I knew it was possible. And it took a total of 8 years and over $1 million of research and testing, working with 3,000 people all over the world. I lived in five different continents, working with different cultures, trying to find out, like, what's universal? How can we? So I was one of the first test cases that got sort of the real results. My anxiety, but not only my insecurities and fears, just basically collapsed. They just went away. And at first I thought it was going to come back. I was like, no, come on. It's going to come. It never came back. And for the last 10 years, consistently, I've just been chill as a cucumber. I don't care what people think of me. And I'm content and calm. And when we saw those results, we went, oh my God, we actually figured this out. But then we realized, oh my God, we need to get this to the world. And so we spent another several years to develop a program that made it very simple, with making it step by step, such that if you work the steps, you get the results. And now we're very proud to say that we have a 90% success rate. No matter what type of fear or anxiety you have, we have a 90% success rate. And that's one result we're very proud of. Also, again, we don't charge at the beginning. We charge at the end of our programs when you get the results. We're also measuring results, because I love results. But also, everything I'm about to tell you, your audience it's going to make sense, but your audience will be skeptical. And I completely get that. I'm not trying to convince anybody. What we're doing is next level, and people, it doesn't make sense. So I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. So I'm going to try and create a new framework of what's possible for your audience. And then at the end, I'm going to send them to my website to get a free training where they can use one of our techniques that we developed for themselves, so that they can get a real result and feel for themselves what I'm talking about. So just know that I care about results, and one result is going to be what I want your audience to feel for themselves, so they can trust this for themselves. So that's my story, and that's what I'm about. Results matter, Bindi. What do you think of that?
That's incredible. Like, that's life-changing stuff, Daniel. Like, just not having those insecurities, those fears, that anxiety. I mean, we're on the backside of a pandemic now, and people's anxiety is at an all-time high after that, because the consequences from that, and you develop habits during that time, and you just look at the world in a different way. And no doubt you would have come across people in your research that have changed their mindset since the pandemic. I'm not blaming the pandemic. There's all sorts of stuff going on in our lives, but to not have that in your life, that's life-changing. Like, you can achieve so much more. Your health is better. You're not so stressed. Like, physically, your body must feel amazing to not be carrying that around with you.
It really is. And it's hard for people to relate, because some people don't have anxiety, but people have fear of rejection, fear of what people think of them, and it limits them. They can find coping mechanisms and enter a comfort zone where they're not up against it every day. But what I always tell people, people will say, like, well, everybody's a little bit anxious and everyone has and I say, not me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know that I'm an outlier because of what we've discovered, but I don't. And it's hard to relate to people what that's like, because everyone is walking around with either some form of anxiety, fear, doubt, insecurity. And I say, I don't. And, how do they feel? And I said, well, there is a group of people that does live this way that you can relate to, which is children. You know, we see children. You won't see a child say, "You know what? I'm really thinking of going to the park, but I really have a scarcity mindset, and I'm really worried that maybe I'm not good enough." Like, they don't talk like that. You ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, they don't say, "Well, what society expects me to do." They say, "I want to be a superhero, unicorn pilot, astronaut." Like, they're so full of hope and possibility, and I'm kind of like that. You know, I'm so have so much, and you never have. There are very few 5-year-olds that have to do cocaine because they have so much energy on their own. And I would hate to see a kid on cocaine. That actually, I would kind of want to see that, but you get the point. I have so much energy all the time. People say, "Oh, I'm procrastinating." I would love to procrastinate. I'm always going because I have so much energy. Even though I'm definitely aging, I'm losing my hair, I'm getting wrinkles and spots. People don't. A lot of people get my age wrong by like 15 or 20 years, and it's not the way I look. It's that I've got this like childlike high pro glow that tricks people's age radar. And again, I wish I could just transfer this feeling and people could get a sample to know how effective what we do is. But I'll tell you, I used to be in the house in a fetal position, and now I'm like this all the time. But going back to what you said about the pandemic, it made it seem like, well, people are more anxious because of the pandemic. They're not more anxious because of the pandemic. No one had gotten to the root cause of anxiety. The pandemic just made it worse. Clients came to us during the pandemic worse. The pain was high enough. They reached out for help. And I would say at least 3/4 of our clients said, even though the pandemic is horrible, I'm the calmest I've ever been in my entire life. Mm. So it's not the pandemic. That's making it worse. But the actual root cause, if you address it, you're calm no matter what. I was calm during the pandemic. And what's great about this technology is some people use it to lower their anxiety. But some people say, well, I don't have anxiety, but I have this fear. Or when life pushes on me, I get overwhelmed and I can't handle it. So some people take it to lower the pain. Other people take it to just be more resilient so that they can show up at a higher level for their family, for their kids, for their business, so that you can just handle more. So yes, what we're doing is revolutionary, and yeah, I just get excited. We're all here to help people and serve, and I just get very excited. I don't even know what we were talking about.
Now, let's be clear: you're not a doctor, and you're not a mental health professional. You are an engineer. So we're not talking about drugs here. We're not talking about actual medicine. We're talking about techniques that you're giving people over a period of time that they work through to overcome these fears and this anxiety.
So yes, what we've invented is not what people have tried in the past, which I always have to remind people. I think it's just so obvious because of what we spent 8 years working on, and people say, "Is this hypnosis?" And I'm like, hypnosis existed. Why would we spend 8 years and $1 million of research and development on hypnosis? No, it's not medication. I'm going to explain to your audience where their anxiety is coming from and the root cause of it. Then you'll understand better what we're doing. But yes, to answer your question, through a set of exercises that they do 4 times a day, it's basically healing your system in a natural way. People do this with diet and exercise all the time, something repetitive that brings your system back to health. And we know it works with diet and so many things in our lives. You can do it with a garden. If you have an unhealthy garden, through consistent visits and repetition of the basics, you can bring a garden back to health. There are so many things that through repetition, if you know what you're doing and you're doing the basics, can bring something back to health. A relationship, a goldfish, a pet, a child, a business. Just people never figured out how to apply it to how we feel. And that's what we figured out. And the reason that we figured it out is because we were engineers, meaning we weren't therapists and psychologists and doctors and spiritual teachers. Those people are well-intentioned, but for the most part, what they do is they've learned some things, either in school or from somewhere else, that helps manage fear and anxiety. And they learn it, and then they pass it on to their clients for a fee. And there's some value in managing things and understanding things and tips and tools, but that's the industry. You learn some tips and tools and strategies to manage it, and then you sell it, and they're fine with that. That's what they do, is just selling sort of Band-Aids and surface level things. But we couldn't tolerate. I'm an engineer. I want something to work, get real, not manage it, you know? So we started from scratch saying, let's reinvent this from the beginning with the sole purpose to solve this. And because we were free and didn't have old stuff and we weren't regurgitating old information, we could innovate. And what we innovated, the first thing was to just look at the whole problem. When you ask the experts where fear and anxiety is coming from, often they'll say it's a problem of the mind. You know, with the anxiety, they'll say, you know, oh, it's your negative thinking or your scarcity mindset. Or they give you pills to target the neurotransmitters in your brain. It's called mental health. Like, it's got the word mental right in there. So the prevailing belief of the experts and what they teach us and what we pay for is that a lot of this is coming from the mind. Now, it could be true. You know, the mind says scary things. We feel scared. Could be true. But we were scientists. We said, is it true? Well, let's look at the results. You know, modern psychology has been around 100 years. Spirituality has been around like 5,000 years. Is this getting permanent results? And the answer is no. Anxiety is on the rise. So we said, let's just revisit this. Maybe it's not coming from the mind because that's not getting the job done. Let's just revisit. Is it coming from the mind? And we just looked at it. We just looked at the whole thing from scratch. Is it coming from the mind? Does that make sense? Does that follow the data? And the answer is no. It's not. Now, we weren't sure where it was coming from, but this mind theory wasn't getting the job done. And your audience already knows this because they're spending time and money on apps and mindset and scarcity and mind, and it ain't solving anything. And we said, where is it coming from? Just as scientists, let's pay attention. And we listen to people. Now, they tell us it's a problem of the mind, but we listened to what people said. And they said, I feel anxious. Not I think anxious. I feel anxious. So we started to say, well, where do people feel anxious? Is it in the mind? No, there's no nerve endings in the mind. When you have anxiety and fear, where do you feel it? Well, your throat can close up, your chest can tighten, your heart rate can go up, your stomach can get that queasy feeling. So the experts are telling us that anxiety is a problem of the mind. But listen to those words: chest, heart, stomach, throat. To your audience and you, Bindi, do those sound like mind words or body words?
Those are body ones.
Those are body words. Yeah. Now, was that some huge, complicated thing to figure out, or did it seem kind of obvious?
Well, it's pretty obvious.
It's pretty obvious. Okay, so if you're just going to look at this and say, how do we solve this? You would look at where the problem's coming from and you would start to try and solve it there. It's coming from the body. But think about that. It's called mental health. But now if the mind strategy had worked, fine, it's coming from the mind. Things aren't always, you know, in the location that you feel them, not always. But if they had 100 years of modern psychology to figure this out in the mind, they're not getting results, and it's coming from the body, they should have adjusted or tried something new. So our research showed, this is not theory, by the way, Bindi, this is real. I live this every day because I use the tools, and our clients use the tools to focus just on the body. My anxiety and fear went away and didn't come back because, to your audience, your anxiety and fear is not coming from your mind. Your mind is connected to it, but it's a symptom of the body. Your anxiety and fear, the root cause, where it's actually coming from, is the body. So if you're listening to this, A, valuable information, but B, this is why your audience hasn't solved this stuff. Because they were sent to the wrong location. And the reason I want your audience to know this is because if you listen to the experts, you think it's the mind, that's just a symptom. You're never going to solve it. And then you're going to think, well, there's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I wasn't a good enough student or this. And you're going to blame yourself. And there's nothing wrong with you. There's something wrong with the information that you were given. The reason you have anxiety is because you were sent to the wrong location. So to your audience out there, you do not have a fear issue or an anxiety issue. You have a location issue. And I know, so I want your audience to know, can you see, and I'm asking you, Bindi, can you see that if you were sent to the wrong location to solve this, you're never going to solve it. And can you see that if you actually went to the right location of the problem, it's much more likely you're going to solve this problem?
Yeah, well, that's a logical conclusion for me.
Yeah. And I'm bringing it up because people say, well, how did you guys figure that? Like, what magical thing does it involve this? And I'm like, no, we paid attention and we're in the right place. That's why we're getting better results. And again, don't fully trust me. Just hear me and say, this guy's making sense. At the end, apply our technique I'm going to give you so you can feel this for yourself. But yes, the reason we're solving it is firstly because we figured out the actual right root cause location. And once you do that, you get much better results.
So, Daniel, if someone jumps on your website and they do this technique that you've got, and they go, I want to go all in, I want to get rid of this for good, I want to do the full program. What does that look like? How do they do this?
I'm going to just briefly mention on it because you asked. The reason I don't go too far into the program is because I've been doing this for so long, and I go around the world telling people we're solving anxiety and fear. And because they've been so heavily confused by the mental health, personal development, spiritual industry, they just cannot wrap their heads around the fact that this could be gone, and they really can't wrap their heads around it that it could be simple. And so logically, people like what we're doing, but they cannot even begin to think about the program because they're just too skeptical. So I don't go into the program too much just because it's not going to help people. What helps people is they apply the technique, they feel it. Once they feel it, then they're like, oh, okay, maybe they can pull this off. Now, to answer your question, everything is online, so it's very accessible. And we're very proud of that because not only is it accessible, but because it doesn't involve one-on-one and years, it's very affordable. It's all online. It's videos and exercises that you do. So people will say, well, I thought I couldn't afford your if you're solving anxiety, that's worth like $1 million. I was like, yeah, we don't charge that because it's an online program that you can do. It's much more affordable. And what there's 4 phases to the process. We're healing the body. And each module is the same structure. You get a 90-minute video that explains to you the theory of what you're going to be doing. Then you get a 30-minute video that walks you through the exercise that you'll be doing for 10 days. And then you, 4 times a day, for a minimum of 5 minutes, you apply the technique to your body, not your mind, to your body. And it is that repetition of these exercises that is healing your body. So there's 4 modules, 4 phases, and each one 90-minute video, 30-minute video, and then a new exercise that you do for 10 days, and then you move on to the next exercise. And what is happening in your body is 3 important key things. The first thing is we are repairing the area in your body where the fear is coming from. First, we repair it, and that's the first phase. The second phase is that we're retraining your body to be more balanced and calibrated. It's sort of been out of whack for so long. We have to bring it back to balance. So first, we repair it and sort of stop the damage. Second phase is to retrain your nervous system in your body to be balanced, get it back to its original factory settings. And then the third phase is maintain, where you're learning a very simple daily practice that 3 minutes a day maintains the results. So repair, retrain, and maintain. And that's what you do over 6 weeks. And again, when you go through the program, you are measuring your anxiety and fear levels throughout the program. So you know exactly where you started and you know exactly where you ended up. You have real scientific data that this worked for you. And that's when we get paid. We get paid for results. And you pay for your results.
I absolutely love that you don't charge until you get change. I love that. Like, imagine if all of medicine was like that. It would be like, wow, like just mind-blowing.
Thank you. It is. It really, really, really is. And what's powerful, well, one is it's the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. When people hear it, they go, huh, that makes a lot of sense. It does make a lot of sense. And people do it in so many other industries. You know, when you pay a gardener or a landscaper a bunch of money, you want to come back and see your garden looking different. If you came back, and you paid a gardener $1,000 and you came back and your garden looked the same, but your gardener said, I'm going to give you some insights and some tips and some tools for your garden. It's like, no, wait, I want to pay for you to do the thing. It's just done. But because the experts do not understand fear and anxiety enough to get permanent results, they couldn't offer this or they'd go out of business. Also, and I don't want to say they're doing this on purpose, it's a much better business model to not solve anything. It's a much better business model to sell the management. The money's in the management. The money's in the Band-Aids, baby. The pharmaceutical industry knows this, but the mental health community also intuitively knows this of like, wait a minute, I can have a client pay me a bunch of money every week for 7 years, and that's accepted. So they're not incentivized to solve this. We were incentivized because we're passionate results and problem solvers. And it's not a very good business model, but it's much more satisfying. The money's in the management, but the satisfaction is in the solution.
Now, you've told us about your results, Daniel. Like, can you give us an idea of some other people who've been through the program and have had some radical results that have changed their life?
Man, I have so many. Which one do I want to? Well, I'll pick one that happened recently. And I appreciate you asking it because this is what matters. Not the theory that I'm talking about or how hard we've worked on. All your audience cares about is this going to work? What are the results? Now, the only way to know for sure is, go do the technique. But in the meantime, what are the results of the people that we've helped? So I'm going to tell you a story about one of our clients, but it's important that your audience understands why we were able to help this client, because I believe it's what everybody wants. So our program works because it's focusing on the body, specifically the nervous system. What we discovered when it was in the body is we said, well, where in the body? And where in the body in a way that we can solve this? And the reason it's valuable to go to the body is because the body is made up of systems. There's the capillary system, the endocrine system, the pulmonary. It's all these systems. And systems have mechanics and engineering. Your skeleton it's mechanics and engineering. Your lungs, it's all engineering and mechanics. And the beauty of that is if you know the mechanics of a system in the body, you know why it can fail and then how to repair it. It's great. So we asked ourselves, what system in the body is causing this? And again, because we're asking the right questions, the answer was not that complicated. If I asked you, Bindi, take away the word fear and anxiety and just use the word nervous. And just say people are much more nervous than they quote unquote should be. I'm going to ask you, Bindi, and your audience, what system in the body do you think is most likely responsible for making people extra nervous?
I reckon it'd be the nervous system.
Yeah. Gold stars to you, Bindi, and anyone who has the nervous system. So simple. You're feeling extra nervous. There's a system in the body called the nervous system. Of course that's where it's coming from, but not of course, because it's coming from the nervous system, not theory, fact, but also there's a system in the body called the nervous system. People are feeling extra nervous. They don't know why. And the experts said, this is a brain disorder. Wait, what? It's not a mind disorder. First, it's not a disorder. Second of all, there's a system in the body called the nervous system, and you're telling people it's in the mind and getting crappy results. It's the nervous system. And the reason this is powerful is because the nervous system is a system. And you can understand systems, why a system fails, and how to bring it back to health. So that's what our program does over the 4 phases is we repair the nervous system, retrain the nervous system, and then tell you how to maintain it. But here's the benefit of that. Because that's just the nervous system, strong nervous system. And again, I'm going to tell you the story. But when you don't have a strong nervous system, it shows up in a very distinct way that your audience can understand. And that is that you just don't feel safe. Can you see, we can call things anxiety, fear, panic, insecurity, doubt, but can you sort of see on some level Those are just our attempt to describe different experiences because we're feeling afraid.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason we're feeling afraid is because for some reason we just don't feel safe. Can you hear that?
Yep.
Yeah. So we saw that if your nervous system has been compromised, which it has, everybody's has, because we were never taught to take care of it, you now feel unsafe. If you feel unsafe, you will feel afraid. If you feel afraid, it's going to show up as anxiety, fear of rejection, fear of failure, self-doubt, insecurity. You're going to call it different things. But if people are honest, it's like, yeah, I feel unsafe. I do not feel comfortable in my own skin. So when we show our clients how to repair, retrain, and maintain their nervous system, the benefit, the real benefit, is you just feel safe from the inside out. It's not because you're doing a mantra. It's not because you're doing an affirmation. It's not because you're meditating. Your just default state is, oh, I feel safe. Can you see, Bindi, that if you just felt safe from the inside out, that things like anxiety, fear of rejection, fear of what people think of you, a lot of the fears of life would go down significantly if you just felt safe from within yourself?
What an amazing feeling.
It is. It's a feeling I didn't have for 40 years, and now it's a feeling that I live with. And that's the feeling that our clients come out of the program with. I had a client, well, many clients, but the one I'm thinking of because this happened recently, he came to me and he said, I have had anxiety and panic attacks since I was my early 20s. He said, I have tried everything. I mean, literally everything. I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It just manages it. And he says, I met somebody that did your program. And he said it was gone. And he said, I didn't believe them. But when they told me you only pay at the end, I got intrigued. And I said, what if everything you're feeling is because you don't feel safe? No, you call it anxiety and panic attacks, but can you see you don't feel safe? He said, no, I haven't felt safe since I was a kid. I said, exactly. Would you like to feel safe? He said, oh my God, can you do that? I was like, it's what we do. And he said the pain of this wasn't even just that he didn't feel safe and the anxiety and the panic attacks. It's that he just couldn't be a father and a husband and a leader that he wanted to be. He said, my kids are outside right now playing and I'm inside hiding because I feel terrified all the time. My wife doesn't have a fully happy husband. My business is failing. Like, it's torture. I said, I know, I've been there. And so he did our program. It's 6 weeks, but about 4 weeks in, he reached out and he said, oh my God. He said, you weren't kidding. And I said, what? He said, I woke up this morning and he said, I think for the first time since I was 6 years old, I felt safe. I just woke up feeling safe. He said there were still challenges, but I just felt safe. And he said, but that wasn't even the best part. He said, the best part is I walked outside and I got to play with my kids again for the first time in 3 years.
Wow.
And he just said, thank you. He said, thank you for giving me this feeling of feeling better. But most importantly, thank you for giving my children their father back and my wife her husband back because she noticed I'm feeling happier. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So the reason we do this and we're so passionate is this is not about anxiety and fear. To us, we're saving lives. If you feel unsafe, you will feel fear and anxiety, and it limits your life to varying degrees. And when we help people feel safe from the inside out, we're not just helping them feel better, we're helping them live better.
Incredible. And how rewarding that must be for you to have, discovered this and pulled this together and to get these results for people. You must feel like, you've got the karma millionaire right here.
I mean, it's interesting. On the one hand, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're all here to help. And just by the fact that we get these incredible results that have these huge impact all the time, it's incredibly rewarding to see things work. And also, on a regular basis, people reach out to us that are on the verge of taking their own life. I mean, in some cases, we're giving back people their sort of experiential life by helping them live. For some people, this is life and death. We've definitely saved some. I mean, we didn't. We gave them the tools, and they did it. But because the experts aren't solving this, and people are in so much pain, and things are getting worse. This is dire. People know this. It's an epidemic, especially with our young people. It's getting, and nobody other than us that I know of has a solution. So it's not just rewarding. We feel like we are completely in purpose doing something that's very important. That's the incredible part. The not so incredible part is because people are so confused and have been trying things for so long that don't work, they feel broken and discouraged, and people are so skeptical of what we do. And there's stuff on the internet that claims big promises and underdelivers, so people have been scammed. And so we're not helping nearly as many people as we can. And it's frustrating because people will reach out, we'll tell them what we can do. We say, we got this program. If it doesn't work, you don't pay. It's solving anxiety. And I'll have people say, no, it's too good to be true. And that's not us. That's because the experts have so confused them and so broken their spirit that when something really good comes along, they can't process. It's like a codependent person who's only been in abusive relationships, and then somebody good comes along. They're like, I can't receive this goodness. It's foreign, and it's like frustrating that I see the world in so much pain. Know that our program is so much more effective, but because the norm is complicated and never ending and always working on this, people just do not trust something that is simple. But it's part of innovating. It's part of innovating is that people reject it in the beginning. So I have to remind myself that it's just the way the world is. And when we started to solve this, we saw other innovators who innovated things, got much better results, but what they did was rejected. I don't know if you know the story. Well, probably not. He's not very well known. But there was a Croatian doctor in the 1850s called Ignaz Semmelweis. I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, and he was a doctor in the 1850s that saw that all these women were dying in childbirth. And, all the other doctors just said, well, this is just part of life. And he, like us, he said, these are bad results. And he was the guy who figured out that the reason that so many women were dying in childbirth was because the doctors weren't washing their hands before they delivered babies. He's the guy that figured that out. He started washing his hands, and then he brought that to his hospital. And just by washing hands before delivering babies, the infant mortality rate in the 1850s dropped by 90%. 90%, but simple. It took 30 years for that to catch on. And he was a doctor. And still it was rejected because of the way things were done. People reject simple, and thousands, if not millions of women died. And he was ostracized from the medical community. He died basically penniless and of a nervous breakdown because people rejected simple. So I don't want more people to lose their spiritual lives from rejecting something simple. That's why we have the free training, so that people can get a sample and see it for themselves. Because as smart as people are, your audience has tried so many things that don't solve fear and anxiety that they can't fully believe me. So I don't want you to fully believe me. I've hopefully opened up a perceptual framework to show you why this might be possible. And it might be possible because we're in the right location. That's going to improve results. But also, if you think your issue is spiritual or psychological, that's quite abstract and difficult to figure out. But if something's in the body, in the nervous system, it's more mechanical. And when you understand things mechanically, you can actually solve things pretty quickly. If somebody's choking, that's a mechanical issue. So if somebody's choking and two people walk up, and one person walks up with a more spiritual, personal development approach and says, hey, you're really focusing on your lack of breathing. You should really focus on the air that is out there. Or, you should really understand why you don't chew your food more and realize that there's a lot of food out there and you should come from a place of abundance and slow down with your food. And have you ever thought, let me give you some tips. Or there's someone that says, oh, this is a mechanical issue. You have a piece of food lodged in your throat. I'm going to apply pressure on your stomach, which is going to put pressure behind the thing, and it's going to pop out, and you can breathe again. Which do you think is a more effective approach to solve this? Spiritual, psychological, or mechanical?
Oh, the mechanical for sure.
Yeah. So the reason this is possible is because this is a mechanical approach. It's in the body. And your audience already knows mechanical solutions. Basically, your nervous system is in a state of failure, like a state of disrepair. And now it's fragile and making you feel unsafe. But this can happen to your teeth. If you don't take care of your teeth, it'll start out with a little bit of unhealth, maybe some puffy gums, but then it can go to cavity and the issue goes deeper. And then if you really don't take care of your teeth long enough, it then can turn into an infected tooth and you need a root canal. At that point, you can't do surface level things. You can't just brush and floss at that point. At that point, you have to go in and repair the tooth. That's what dentists do. But your audience knows that's possible. They know that their teeth can go into a state of failure, but you go to an expert who understands the mechanics of how to repair a tooth, and then a person with years of tooth pain can clear that up in a matter of hours. So the same is for your nervous system. You were never taught to take care of it, and now your nervous system is basically in a state of failure. That's why the surface level stuff isn't helping. It's too deep. It needs to be repaired. But just the way there are experts that figure out how to repair teeth, and there's experts that figure out how to repair knees, and there's experts that figure out how to repair a heart, we spent years developing a process to repair your nervous system. And in the same way you can go from fragile teeth to strong teeth and eat whatever you want, you can go from a fragile nervous system to a strong nervous system and do whatever you want.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Now, there's a tipping point for everything, Daniel, and I know yours is not going to be far away. But so that we get more people on the journey, where can they go if they want to be a part of this program?
Well, thank you for asking. So I like things simple. Your audience likes things simple. So KISS, keep it simple, sexy. So my name's Daniel Packard. I like things simple. What do you think my website is, Bindi?
Is it danielpackard.com?
You're a genius. Gold stars to you. So you're going to go to my name, Daniel Packard, and add dot, that's a period, COM. You've probably done this before. Super simple. You can go to my website, and there's going to be a training, 45 minutes. And I like things simple. What do you think the cost of this training is, Bindi?
It's free.
It is free because I want to keep things simple so that your audience can see this for themselves. You're going to go to danielpackard.com. You're going to download a free training. But why would you? Why? Well, first of all, if you've got anxiety or anything that you would describe as fear of rejection, fear of failure, self-doubt, insecurity, if you have fear that's holding you back and you would love it to be solved so that you could be a happier you, a more present you, a more focused you, a more loving you, a more patient you, just a happier you, then you go to danielpackard.com, you get the free training. It's 45 minutes, and here's what you're going to learn in the free training. First of all, you're going to see, in a way you have not seen before, what is making your nervous system nervous and cranking out this fear, whether you call it anxiety, fear of rejection, self-doubt. You're going to see what's causing it that you have not heard before. Spoiler alert, it's simple, and it's literally right under your nose, and you're going to feel it. It's not going to be a theory. You're going to go, oh, man, that's where it's coming from, and I didn't even know that was there, and that's what's causing the real problem. Then we're going to explain to you the theory of what would be necessary to repair your nervous system so that you feel safe in your own body. And then, most importantly, you're going to apply one of our techniques. And you're going to measure your fear and anxiety in your system, and you're going to feel it start to go down. Different amounts for different people, but I got a message from a woman 2 weeks ago that said from the 3-minute exercise at the end of the 45-minute training, she felt a sense of calm that she had not felt in years. And that's from a 3-minute exercise. And when you feel our techniques working in your body, not your mind, your body, It's going to show you not only how our program works, but most importantly, that it can work for you. Now, you can use that technique to feel calmer whenever you want, but it's meant more to show you what's possible and to show you that this could be simple, to give you hope that you don't have to live like this if you don't want to, and give you the life that you deserve, to be happier, to be more fulfilled, to be more present, not just for you, but the people you care about. So if you think that 45 minutes is a good use of time to understand what's making you so afraid and understand how to feel safe all the time and feel it, to reframe what's possible for you and to give you hope that you don't have to live like this. If you think 45 minutes is a good use of time to see if you can be calmer and happier for the rest of your life, then you go to my website, which is what, Bindi?
DanielPackard.com.
To get the training, which is what cost, Bindi?
It's free.
Why? Because we like to keep it simple, sexy.
Absolutely love it. And, I'm actually going to jump on there and give it a go. And because, Daniel, we've got to get more people onto this because it is going to change the world. It really is. And thank you so much for being part of that change and being here with me today on the Ethical Evolution.
My honor.